It all started with an essay that he wrote as a senior in high school that described the liberal bias in textbooks. So how, Charlie, did that essay lead you to where you are, to the head of a large conservative activist organization?
Well, great to be here, Dr. Bob. Yeah, I wrote that essay when I was a senior in high school, and I came across an AP, which means Advanced Placement textbook, economics textbook, that was called Paul Krugman's Economics for the AP. And Paul Krugman is an economist for the New York Times who's been wrong about basically everything for the last 30 years. And I opened it up, and it was one chapter after the other of why private property needs to be put into question, why collectivization of property is actually more efficient, more of kind of the Cass Sunstein model of organizing society. And there was one chapter in particular that was wrong. It was wrong in its interpretation of history and wrong in what it was trying to teach the readers. And it was teaching students that the 1980s was not a period of economic growth. It was a period when the middle class suffered and that poor people got poorer. And Dr. Bob, you're entitled to your own opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. You know the 1980s, that thanks to Ronald Reagan and tax cuts and deregulation, that the economy soared. And so I challenged this to my teacher and kind of wrote it up. And this was when Andrew Breitbart was still alive, right before he died, like a month before he died. Breitbart.com took that essay and was the first essay I ever wrote. I just sent to them as a tip, and they said, why don't you try to write this? And it ended up going totally viral. It was published on hundreds of websites. I ended up going on Fox News over it. And all of a sudden I kind of realized, hey, this is what it feels like to be an activist. You know why? Because of the enemies that I made because of that. My teacher, administrator, and principal, superintendent, head of instruction, they hated the fact that I would go and expose the fact that they are teaching this garbage in these classrooms. And so from there, I kind of got the itch, you could say, to try to do something to save this country.
And that article in Breitbart led to an interview on Fox News.
That's right.
For a high school senior.
That's right.
Pretty good.
So I was on Fox News in the morning at like 6 a.m. Then I went back to class, and it was all over the internet. And this was pre-Twitter. It was still kind of getting online. And my teachers were saying, "Did I see you on television this morning?" And that was the beginning stages of kind of what became Turning Point USA. And I got to thinking, kind of the entrepreneur in me kicked in. I said, there must be millions of other young people experiencing exactly what I saw in that textbook. And that was just one isolated incident of Dr. Bob, of teachers that would go out of their way towards framing Marxism in a positive way, and kind of the beginning stages of what was wokeism all the way back in 2012.
Now, I know you did try to get into the Air Force Academy. You
West
applied,
Point, yes,
West,
that's right.
West Point. For some reason, they turned you down, and that was probably a good thing. You can learn what's necessary by doing. You don't need to go to college. So I think it was very lucky that they turned you down, because you wouldn't be here today if you spent time 4 years in the military.
I totally agree.
academy.
And it would have been 4 years plus 5 years military service, right? So
Right.
I would just be getting out right now, and who knows, maybe I would be in some Afghanistan debacle after that whole humiliation. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. And that's my lesson to young people, is my whole life was about going to West Point. I was an Eagle Scout, football, basketball captain, good grades, member of the community, got every letter recommendation you could imagine, got my congressional nomination. But when it came for appointment to the academy, I didn't get in. And it was crushing at the time. And I couldn't quite process it or understand it. And I was kind of left with this decision, what do I do? And simultaneously, that kind of essay was written right near that denial letter. And I realized that there was a much more important path that I was supposed to be on.